Welcome to the first episode of Culture Capital, where we dissect and deep dive all the things that make our lives. We're talking trends, we're talking ideas, we're talking the global creative economy. And if this is your vibe, it should be your vibe, right? Stay with me and don't forget to subscribe to the channel below. Like I always say, culture isn't just art, isn't just fashion, music, or just a regular way of life that we're taught in our primary school. In 2025, it's a global movement that we've seen change the way we think, the way we behave, and every other decision that we make. As somebody who grew up watching every channel on when we're talking about Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Rich, Kids of Beverly Hills, Nightly Pop, I grew up consuming that content. And for some reason, I was just right there in my house in Ikeja, Allen Avenue, but it felt like I was all over the world. And at certain cultures and certain things really just made sense to me. But then talking about this, when we're talking about Keeping Up with the Kardashians and all of those things, it became a full-blown world of influence, right? And then that takes me to our first topic, the gatekeepers. When we talk about the gatekeepers, we're not talking about the people who are unlocking the key to the game or unlocking certain things. But before the world of social media, certain things were cool. Who are those people who said these things were cool? Who are those people who said, oh, the Kardashians are like the hottest thing in the world? People bought into their trends. Remember King Kylie era. Kylie's lip kit, like all of those things now. I am just because I'm into that now, and I look at all of these things that I've consumed over. I'm just like, oh my god, a lot of these things that we believed were true were so curated. Like it was curated to the T. And how that became a global phenomenon is something I would never understand. I understand it now, but to the depths of it and how those things were created, it takes years, honestly. And kudos to that. But the funniest thing now is, you see that concept of gatekeepers. The gatekeepers before were the media editors, were the TV guys, were the fashion bloggers, your even down to Nigeria, your Vogue, right? But then we had city people, we had encomium. Oh my god, and those were the people who would curate this news and our so-called blogs today. Not so-called, but like you get what I'm saying when I say so-called blogs, right? This is another topic for another day. But for the trends today, we're talking about your TikTok algorithm. We're talking about the influencer that can make or break your brand right now. We're talking about the consumer, because people forget the consumers are the drivers of these trends at the end of the day.
The most uncomfortable thing about the gatekeepers and people who determine what is cool or not is the fact that the communities that start this culture, or where certain cultural inspirational elements started from, never get to profit from it. Let me explain. Taking it back to my first activation ever was at Jameson Connect, yes. The usual like Oktoberfest Jameson Connect that they used to do. And for the first time, I was like, who are these people? And they're like, oh, the Tech community. I was like, what? I was like, what? This is actually crazy. But at the end of the day, like, that community existed and it became cool. And when the music started, Show Them Camp, there was Thames, there was certain things that now made it cool and acceptable. And when I tell people, like, these things are actually curated and filtered. Before we watch your next Netflix show, somebody had already said it was cool and it was nice. That's the next big thing. And it's almost the same thing if those people also say that it's not cool, we're not interested. Right now, or years ago, we knew who it was. But right now, the algorithm is the ultimate gatekeeper. And it's crazy. That is why people have spiraled at this point in time. This is why controversy would always be the order of the day. Which is why brands that play it safe at the end of the day do not necessarily make it big, or you have to be different. You have to be certain things. When we're talking about the global creators economy, you can see where people are complaining that they are in the TikToks 200 views and 10 likes gate. People are talking about Instagram, and Instagram is not pushing their content. But in the same breath, like, we can see people blowing up overnight. We can still see the concept of virality. We can still see the concept of people just seeing things on their explore page. It's crazy how It works now. You can be thinking of something and the next thing your entire algorithm is filled with that thing. And you're telling me that is not a gatekeeper's work curating this. So it has come from the culture is still what drives it, but then we now have technology, AI, and data. And one thing about the African markets, we're always at the last, like we're always the last set of people to get accustomed to certain things, which is why again we would probably not be the first set of gatekeepers, and why we'll most likely not profit from our culture because we're not pushing it as we should. Afrobeats didn't become a thing until the Western world made it something. Our big three, big four, however, or whoever is in that league, will not necessarily be our big three, big four if the Western world didn't take them as that. Don't misunderstand me. It is really what it is. Because even as I then, well, like I said, I'm making references back to when I used to sleep and breathe E and then keeping up with the Kardashians and all of those things. Right now, they will still tell you, oh, the Kardashians are in their flop era. However, they are still the drivers of certain culture. You can talk about Kim however she wants or however you want, but then that babe has pivoted so many times and is still making billions. You've never seen anybody who tries something as much as that family. And yet we still say, oh no, they are not relevant. Please, they have been relevant since, since whenever they said it was relevant. And they created certain things. The BBL trend, they had done it like 10, 13, 20 years ago. And before it became a thing now. And you say, oh, they are not relevant again. And which is why I'll always stand talking Makinwa, because I still remember the days when Linda Ikeji's blog used to call her talking about a YMT and everywhere you go. But please, that babe understand the concept of influence as at that time, and she knew, oh my god, I want something and I'm going to get it. It might be unconventional, but I would still get it regardless. So people didn't necessarily see that she was a radio host. She started YouTube when YouTube wasn't cool. She started all of those things, and this is why I'm going to um make my point, right? When we talk about the gatekeepers are not necessarily the fact that, oh, they are gatekeeping this thing and not letting other people in, right? They are the people who started when it wasn't sexy to start, when it wasn't cool to start, when it wasn't a thing. Which is why I also go back to Dima Ome. If Dima Ome decides to take 3 years off YouTube, our community is going to wait for her. Same as CCMA, those are people who started when, again, YouTube and content creation wasn't cool. And they are the gatekeepers at the end of the day. But the fact that right now, you can always gatekeep or be one of the top league to an extent before technology comes to say, hey, you, get out. Get out, you're no longer relevant. And we need to take account of those. We need to keep up with the trends. We need to ensure that we're moving with the times. We need to make our own products, our own environment, our own culture cool before other people say it's cool. In terms of branding, in terms of brands, in terms of PR, I'm talking from the ways I've had issues with brands most of the time because certain things that and how I think about stuff is a bit unconventional. And then when I'm like, try it this way, like, oh, no, we don't know the results. But at the end of the day, like, if you started it first, and there's something called first advantage. If you did it first and did it well, because again, there's that thing where you are the lab rats. It might work and it might not also work. When culture is filtered through gatekeepers, right? And it has gotten to that part where it's now beyond the people who started it. It has become, or it has left the world of self-expression. It has left the world of oh, this is just me, I'm doing what I like. It has now become a product. And we should always remember, with every product, somebody is chasing a check. So by the time you wake up and you're waking up to the new trend on Instagram, you're waking up to your top 10 Spotify playlist, you're waking up to your TikTok algorithm and whatever is like invoked the next day, please know that it has been curated and filtered to be that way. Somebody is cashing the check behind. And what I mean is, when we're talking about certain things and people call it inspiration, so we're talking about hair, we're talking about style, we're talking about cultural appreciation. Oh my God. You get what I'm saying? When we're talking about that and it becomes mainstream, just know that the big dogs, like people with money, people with capital, have already gotten a hold out of it, and then it becomes mainstream. And then we practically forget who started this thing, what culture started it. In terms of, even if we're manufacturing products, it's not going to start from there. If we're looking at certain things and behavioral concepts, it's not back to the origin. I think that's why most people now are very conscious of where they decide to spend their money on. The consumers, again, are also very cautious about certain things, which is why I think from like or after COVID, you have to actually think through certain things before you put it in the public eye, because you're going to get scrutiny. Consumers are now so aware from where they are buying. They can easily spot all of these things. Remember when I said TikTok is the ultimate algorithm right now? Because if any brand decides to do anything, like, you're going to find the history and people are going to talk about it, like in terms of creators that you use, in terms of storytelling. There was a situation recently with American Eagle and the whole jeans ad and things like that. It was just a whole lot of things. The funniest thing about this is we say every PR or good PR or bad PR is good PR. American Eagle stocks went up like crazy and people were there on TikTok complaining. So it's really, really dicey. And you can't get it right 100%. But I think if you're a brand, if you're a marketer, if you're in this industry or whatever it is, and if you want to put something out in the public, you need to be in tune with what culture is saying. You need to be in tune with the past, and you also need to be in tune with the future. I am definitely not an anti-gatekeeper. And to be honest, the best thing you can do for yourself is to be a gatekeeper in your own niche. But I'll help you identify 3 ways you can do that. And then let's start. Identify who holds the keys in your space. Because if you know them, if you know what to work with, you have to study them, you have to look at their history, you have to look at resources, you have to look at how they move and understand how they move. The second thing is learn their language without losing yourself. So again, you can be inspired by somebody, but self-expression would always be ultimate. Every editor is not the same. Every photographer is not the same. Every scriptwriter is not the same. But the moment you start copying somebody back to back, you're going to lose your self-expression, and it can definitely not last with that. And the third thing is decide what gates you even want to. So this can be used in multiple ways. When we talk about, oh, you want to build your brand and multiple platforms, yes. When we talk about business owners, a fashion designer, what kind of fashion designer do you want to be? Pick your niche. What kind of content creator do you want to be? Pick your niche. What kind of a finance guru do you want to be? It has nothing to do with just creativity. Because sometimes when people talk about the creatives, they talk about it in a way that it doesn't have structure. It doesn't have some form of maybe like corporate element to it. But at the end of the day, like, it's an ecosystem that thrives from each other. And to be honest, the smartest thing you can do for yourself is to build your own gate. You know why? You've identified the gatekeepers. You've identified their language. You understand what the future looks like and what you're driving at. And sometimes, honestly, you just have to build your own. Remember, the smartest people in history did not wait for permission. They built the culture and then built the door. My name is Kaka, and this is Culture Capital. But I just gave you the keys to your own door.